Good morning, guys, and welcome back to Island Tea on this beautiful hump day.
It is, it
It's
is.
Wednesday, January 19th, and we're here with your faves. Well, Azem Sans Kevin, and
Indeed.
Jade, Gwenny Gwen, Idita CPL Johnson.
Well, all the names by.
Yeah, but that's you, Jade.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
And we are being joined by a very special guest, friend of the show, and I do not use that term loosely.
No.
I stopped this morning.
Yes, literally dead. Literally dead. But
But
yes.
a friend of the show, the Honourable Mark Drip Brantley, is joining us via Zoom. Guys, good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
We're
Loud
here
and clear.
loud and clear.
Hi, good morning to you both. Good morning to your many fans and viewers and listeners. It's good to be back with you. Happy New Year.
Same to you, sir. Same to you. But let me ask you, first of all, this has been on my mind. How do you feel about our nickname for you? Like, do you use
What,
it?
what
No,
is your nickname for me?
You've never heard it?
he here just know. He just
No.
didn't know it was a nickname.
Oh, we call you Drip because we feel like you're the best dressed premier.
Oh, drip. I thought you meant that as I get older, my life is dripping away.
No, no, no,
Oh,
no,
That's what it means.
man.
Yeah?
Not at
Uh,
all. Not at
I'm
all.
now I'm now a senior citizen, so
You don't
um,
look it. You don't look it at least.
thanks. These are the wonders of modern medicine.
I must say, we often find when people are in politics for a very long time, they start looking older.
Jade, what long time? You're in there before the campaign done. Some of them don't run now.
And you have somehow beat that.
I predict we have an election coming in Nevis, and I predict some of them are not going to get to the election, and I predict that some of them are going to leave immediately after the election.
Oh, so we
You're
out
right.
the gate early. We're starting early.
Well, I'm just letting you know what's going on.
Oh,
Well, that is
So
why you're
you're
here.
right. You're right. Some of them will have no longevity in politics at all.
But that is why we're here. As a matter of fact, that is one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about.
Sure.
Um, is election in Nevis due? The local election in Nevis, is it due?
Well, it's due by March of 2023, so we're definitely in the window now for elections. It can come at any time prior to that, but I think that's the outside date.
Yeah. And what seems to be the energy on the ground, because we've seen over the last year in particular, certain parties, particularly the opposition, positioning themselves, launching candidates, such and such. And so, do you believe that there's a real sense of preparation for the election happening across the board?
Well, truly, I have no idea. The opposition has said they've launched candidates. I think people have forgotten who the candidates are. So it is quite likely that they'll have to relaunch those candidates because there's been absolutely no type of buzz, nothing on the ground. I think people have been preoccupied with COVID, with finding jobs, with the recovery effort. And so I don't think that we have paid much attention to the partisan politics of the day, particularly because a year ago, elections were certainly not on the cards at all. So I anticipate that some of those candidates will have to be relaunched because persons are genuinely asking, who are they? They have not really paid attention to those candidates.
I totally understand what you're saying. I don't know if they would agree, but I do take the point that there is a lot happening for the people of Nevis right now, focusing on the pandemic, navigating that whole situation. Which the truth is, Nevis has been, for the most part, I would say, spared. Would you have a similar thought as relates to the pandemic?
I think we have been fortunate. I think God has been good to us. I also feel that we have had some very effective management by those that we have put in charge of managing this pandemic. We have, of course, a local task force in Nevis headed by Dr. Judy Nisbet, and they have worked very closely with the federal task force headed by Abdias Samuel. I think that these people deserve every commendation. The nation owes them a debt of gratitude. They have come in for criticism from time to time, and we understand in a robust democracy like ours that will happen. But I do feel that they've done a good job. And in Nevis, the fact that 2 years on in this pandemic, We have not yet got to 1,000 cases. We've only had 5 deaths. And of course, one death is one too many. But I think in the circumstances, we compare very favorably to anywhere else in the world. And even in recent cases, even though we've had a surge recently, none of those persons have ended up in hospital. The symptoms, for those who have had symptoms, have been quite mild. So I think we need to really commend our people. Bear in mind that nobody had any idea what this COVID-19 was all about and what this pandemic would entail. There was no blueprint, as I keep saying. You couldn't go to Barnes and Noble and say, could I have the manual for how to deal with a global pandemic? The last pandemic the world saw, a global pandemic, was in the influenza pandemic, I think was over 100 years ago. So I think we have to commend these people. And I'm very impressed with what I've seen in Nevis, the way our healthcare and frontline workers have responded, the way my cabinet colleagues have responded in terms of being very effective, taking quick decisions and moving the island forward. And since I'm on this show, and I know it's widely viewed by a global audience, but particularly by the folks in St. Kitts, let me go on record to thank our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts. I think in a very real way, I reached out to them during the pandemic. I invited them to come to Nevis, to come see this part of their country, and they responded in droves. And I was at a restaurant a few nights ago, and the owner came out to speak to me, and he commented that it was the business that was generated locally for his restaurant that kept him afloat. In fact, he indicated that he had restaurants in Antigua and I believe in Grenada, and it was the revenue earned in Nevis that kept all of them afloat during the pandemic. And we credit to a large extent our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts who made Nevis really their home, who made Nevis their spot to go to vacation, to hang out for the weekend. And I really think that that ought to continue, that we ought to have more interchange, that our people should travel freely. I was, for example, very surprised when a lot of Kittitians said to me that they'd never been to Nevis. That really surprised me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this COVID taught us that we can look internally for all kinds of purposes. We have strength that we have internally, and that our people can support local businesses and make them viable. And so absent tourists, because we didn't see any tourists for quite a while, it was a local community that kept a lot of businesses afloat. So kudos to you guys. Thank you very much, and keep coming. And we will keep coming to see you as well.
Yeah, I think that is a very true, that is a truism. The fact that so many Kittitians in particular have now seen Nevis as almost an extension of their own backyard.
Indeed.
So much so that
as it should be.
Yeah,
as it should
definitely.
Be. Yes.
Definitely. Up to this this weekend, my mother was telling me, a family member of hers, she asked him, so what are you doing? What are you doing later? He's like, I'm going to Nevis for a barbecue and come back. This was like at 5 o'clock.
But you know something that I don't think my government gets sufficient credit for is the construction of that water taxi pier.
Right.
Because I think that has completely revolutionized travel between St. Kitts and Nevis. The mere fact that your family member can come over for a little barbecue and go back. We see now people coming over for birthday celebrations. It really doesn't matter.
People come over for lunch.
They do.
They lunch, they hang out, they go to the beach. And I think that the sort of efficiency of that service, the fact that you can go back and forth in 5 or 6 minutes, is really appealing to a lot of people. For sure. And that has really opened up the country in a very, very significant way. These water taxis operate almost like Uber. You call them and, if you have a large enough group, you're ready to go, they're ready to take you.
Yeah.
So I think that initiative is what I view as sort of real quality policy prescriptions that have, given life to the idea of transportation and movement of people between St. Kitts and Nevis. People are using that now even more so than the regular ferry docks in Charlestown and Bastia. So there is a lot to be said about government that is forward-looking and that creates policy and puts in place infrastructure that drives economic activity in a significant way.
Yeah, for sure. That is definitely, I mean, even personally, I know that has benefited my business, opening up Nevis as, a place I could go to and work, provide services. So that for me, personally, that's been a huge, huge, huge plus, for sure.
And you shed some light on something that I wanted to ask you actually. The fact that it seems now, especially during this time, that your appreciation has grown. Well, the appreciation for you as a person, as somebody who is in the power that you have, the appreciation for that has grown from petitions. Like we often see a lot of petitions talking about the things that you do for Nevis and the fact that the initiatives that you actually put in place during the pandemic seems to be something that they wish that they had over here, like, so how do you feel about now not only growing as a person in Nevis, but somebody who is well known over in St. Kitts?
Well, I think this is how it ought to be. To be quite blunt, I think that for far too long, Nevisians have focused on Nevis and Kittitians have focused on St. Kitts. And part of my messaging, and so long as I'm afforded the opportunity and the privilege to be on this stage of public service, I think that that message has to go out, that we are one people, we are one country. We're separated, yes, by 2 miles of ocean, but we're one people, we're one country. And so the same way that you would say you have family in Sandy Point, you're going to visit your family in Keon, equally you have family in Gingerland, you have family in Cotton Ground, you're going to go visit them. And I feel that type of approach has really started to bear spectacular fruit. I think when I look at the park, the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park that we recently opened, so many people from St. Kitts are coming over and enjoying the park facilities with their children, spending the day, and vice versa. So many people from Nevis are going over. You go to a place like Rituals in the morning for breakfast. You go to any of those, you see so many Nevisians who have been over for the night, who are having breakfast. I think that the country is changing, and I think that people are paying more attention to what is going on in the country, and that we are no longer being seen as, oh, he's the leader for Nevis and he's the leader for St. Kitts. It's more people seeing what's available in their country, and I emphasize that, in their country, as opportunities and possibilities for them. I drove by the little roundabout there as you go into the Kennedy Simmons Highway, and I saw a sign there saying Yachtsman Grill, Espresso something. That's a Nevisian business that is now
Right.
opening in St. Kitts.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to the owners and I said, well, that's an interesting move. And they said that the restaurant and the product is so popular with Kittitians that they have been moved to do something there. Indian Summer Restaurant in Nevis, a very popular Indian food. They now advise me as recently as last night that they're about to open in St. Kitts. So what we see happening now is, even our business community and our people generally saying, hey, why am I restricting myself to the,
Yeah.
36 square miles that is Nevis, or the 68 square miles that is St. Kitts? Can we not expand that and see ourselves as one country? And instead of only serving the 12,000, 13,000 people in Nevis, or the 30,000, 35,000 St. Kitts, why don't we serve all the people? So I think that those opportunities are opening up. If you look now at the cruise industry, for example, when the cruise ships come in, clearly St. Kitts has a very robust cruise industry. The beaches in Nevis are full. Who are they full with? Passengers who have come into Port Zante, who then take the catamarans and they head straight to Nevis. So I think that those synergies have always existed, but we perhaps have not highlighted them.
All right.
And I think, used social media and other media opportunities like this to highlight those synergies and to say that we are one country and everything that's available in the country should be available to all of us.
Right. I mean, even the idea of one country being something that is really put into practice and becomes like a cultural norm as opposed to just something that we say. I think we see more and more of that happening, like you're pointing out, and I do believe that as we move forward, like that will become even more true. That will become even more true. And speaking of moving forward, it's a new year and it's a time when we tend to look forward to what's to come. Is there anything that excites you as you look out on the horizon for Nevis that's on the docket for 2022?
Well, 2022 is a year that we are still in recovery mode. And we did not have the fiscal space in Nevis to do a whole lot. And so what we have decided to focus on is bringing into completion a lot of projects that we would have started and to take care of some additional projects that we had committed to. So I confess that there's no sort of, large scale infrastructural projects, for example, that we're seeking to do here. We're definitely in a consolidation mode, in a recovery mode. We have said that we're trying to regain the momentum that we lost during COVID. And so we are all in the process now of job creation, business expansion, working with the private sector, incentivizing small businesses to get up and running. Incidentally, we have done a very good job, I think, in making some $5 million available to small businesses. And we focused on women and youth for those businesses. So a lot of female entrepreneurs have stepped up. A lot of youth entrepreneurs have stepped up. We have provided seed money of up to $100,000 to those businesses. And so we see a lot of that as we try to combat, the impact and the effects of COVID-19. We have pivoted in a very significant way to agriculture and food security. I remember it was in March of 2020 that we sat in the Nevis cabinet, and I said to my colleagues, since nobody knew what was going to happen with COVID, what if the port of Miami closed? And that was a very scary thought, because if the port of Miami closed, we would have a food crisis in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yep.
Because so much of our food comes in containers from the port of Miami. And we made that decision in March of 2020 that we had to do a hard pivot towards food security. And so much of what we did in Nevis by way of stimulus from the government went to the agricultural sector. I'm proud to report today that that is borne spectacular fruit. We now have young people, university graduates getting involved. We see the youngsters using technology such as shade house and hydroponics to create food, to grow food. And if you even go to the supermarket shelves now, I believe it was Value Mart in St. Kitts recently, and I saw that Nevis greens are now on the shelves there. And we have some youngsters who have stepped up in a very major way, and we feel that that is the way to go, to ensure that we can feed ourselves, that we can engage in import substitution, so that a lot of things that we're importing, we don't need to. There's no good reason, for example, why we should be importing things like watermelons or cantaloupe, greens, leafy greens, lettuce. Those are things that grow here very easily. And so we did that. And I think that these are, again, the policy prescriptions, which in 2 years we've seen at work. We did in terms of construction. We removed all duties, all charges in relation to construction materials for persons, particularly young persons who are building a first home. And then we expanded it to those who were doing anything over 30,000 EC dollars. And the numbers have flown through the roof in terms of people doing construction, building homes, expanding existing homes, building second homes. So we have really done some creative things during the pandemic to try and generate economic activity. And that will be our focus this year as we continue to do that. Longer term, I think that there's some exciting prospects on the horizon. My government is very interested, for example, in cryptocurrency, looking at this new phenomenon that is taking the world by storm. I heard you mention, as I was listening earlier, Dcash, which is something I think the central bank has done. There are various payment platforms now that are developing. I mean, the world is fast becoming a cashless society.
Indeed.
And I think that we are looking at that to see how we can position ourselves to take advantage of the technological developments in areas such as those. We are looking at some various private infrastructure project like a marina construction, which we expect to start very soon, which will be, I think, a nice complement to Christopher Harbor. Christopher Harbor, of course, has the mega yachts. This will be something to cater to the smaller yachting community. So I think that there's some interesting things that are happening on Nevis, and as we continue to play our part in terms of national development.
I think that based on all you said, I think the only logical question next is when can I move over, and what will be the process?
Yes.
But that's the beauty of it, though. You are in your country already. You don't need to move over. Whatever is here is available to you.
Oh.
So, if you choose to live on sexy St. Kitts, as I like to call it, then that's your choice. If you choose to live on Nevis naturally, that's your choice. So I think that is the beauty of this country, We have other twin island nations in the Caribbean, but you can't live on Antigua and experience Barbuda. It's too far away.
Right.
You can't live in Trinidad and experience Tobago. It's too far away. St. Kitts and Nevis is uniquely positioned that you literally have two islands, one paradise. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. You can live on Nevis, work on St. Kitts, dine on St. Kitts, party on St. Kitts, gamble on St. Kitts at the casino, and vice versa. It,
Right.
it is the perfect setup and what I like to call the yin and yang of the tourism industry. So I believe that people have been coming to us for many years and enjoying all that we have to offer. My message during the pandemic and continuing post-pandemic is that it is time for our own people to enjoy all that we have to offer. And I think that people are waking up to that nothing is beyond us. If you want to dine at the Four Seasons or dine at the Park Hyatt, it's a matter for you. But these things are all available to us. And that I think is a very important message that I want to resonate with our people, that this is our country and we should take advantage of all the benefits that are available. The full fruits of our citizenship should be available to all of us.
Yeah, I think we could completely agree with that. But we want to move forward a little bit on to something that we discuss here quite frequently, which is the positioning of our passport and how you were able to obtain this, what it was, number 23 at this point?
Yeah, I think we're like number
I
two
think,
in the Caribbean,
Yeah.
though. In
yes.
terms
We're
of the
number
strongest passport.
we're number one in the Caribbean. We are jointly tied at number one with Barbados.
Mm.
Oh,
But I'm hopeful that we can surpass them in the next 2 or 3 months and
Wow.
hold the number one position on our own. We have done some signings late last year. I made a visit to Belgrade in Serbia, and thereafter we did a signing in New York that took us to 161 countries globally that we can access without a visa. I think that's a remarkable achievement for a country our size. It shows tremendous confidence by governments globally about St. Kitts and Nevis. And it has allowed us to access countries in a very meaningful and significant way. Now, many people say, oh, I don't want to go to Africa. Or I don't want to go to, Uzbekistan. And they say, why are you pursuing? But each visa waiver, I think, demonstrates the confidence that these countries have in us. And each one increases the strength and the viability of the St. Kitts Nevis passport. And so we are due, I'm told, to sign with Zimbabwe. We're due, I'm told, to sign with Uganda and one other country, I can't remember now, but all of those are likely to happen in the first quarter of this year. And that will catapult us to about 165 or so countries that we can access visa-free. That will give us number one position on our own in the Caribbean. And I think that that's a remarkable achievement for our country.
It is definitely a remarkable achievement. As somebody who is, you know, involved in an industry where I have to travel a lot, like I could definitely appreciate this. Having to be in positions where I have to get visas to enter. And as a matter of fact, being in positions where I have to compete with other persons for jobs where they don't have to get the visas, and so
Sure.
losing out on those opportunities. I think
Sure.
we a lot of times we don't recognize just how important these relationships are with some of these countries. And you spoke, and well, you mentioned how it actually strengthens the attractiveness of the passport. Um, but I usually mention what I personally would like to see, and you could probably educate me a bit on this. Is when we have these diplomatic relations with these countries, um, outside of just the visa-free waiver, is there scope for us to have some type of, whether it is economic trade, cultural trade with some of these countries, where we can not only learn from what they may have going on there, whether it is in agriculture or whatever, but also position ourselves where we can also send some of what we produce, whether it is cultural, agricultural, and so forth, to some of these countries, so that we could see even more of the partnership coming out of these relations.
Well, I entirely agree with you, and that is part of the diplomatic blueprint, if you will. That's part of the effort. But clearly, a lot of this starts with the ability to travel. And so the visa-free access is a first step. Oftentimes, if you're deciding, well, where do I go? I want to go to Africa. Where do I go? If you have to go to a country, or if the choice is to go to a country where you have to go through a lot of hassle, send your passport to London and all of this to get a
Yeah.
visa, or you go to some place that doesn't require that, you may gravitate to the place that doesn't require that. And so travel is the first thing, because oftentimes we only know of the possibilities, and the opportunities only open up when we can actually see it, we can visit, we can interact. And so for us, that's the first step. You're absolutely correct. And we have, in fact, um, expanded the relationship and animated the relationship with some countries. You take a country like Morocco, which is in Northern Africa. We now have scholarships to Morocco. We engage with Morocco in terms of fertilizer. They're one of the world's largest producers of fertilizer. So they make a lot of fertilizer available to us. We have scholarship opportunities there. Serbia, we now have scholarship opportunities there. And scholarships in education and training is also an opportunity for us to get a sense of who they are and for them to get a sense of who we are. I think that, trade comes sort of after relationships are established, business and otherwise. Trade comes when we have an understanding of the culture, we have an understanding of each other, we have an understanding of the language. I went to Serbia, for example, and I felt a little uncomfortable because clearly I don't speak any of their language. But while there, I met a young lady from St. Kitts who's studying there, and she was already picking up on the language. And I thought to myself, imagine in 5 years when she's done and she's fluent in the Serbian language, it would be remarkable. That's somebody now who you could put in a position to say, hey, can we do business with Serbia? Because communication is always critical in doing business. So it is a multifaceted approach to get to the point where you were talking about, but I think it's an approach that we are aware of and that we're working towards. And incidentally, as I say that, can I make a pitch yet again to our young people to take advantage of these training opportunities? I sat with the foreign minister of Morocco and begged him for scholarships for St. Kitts and Nevis students. And he was very generous. His government was very generous. They offered us 20 scholarships. And over the years, no one has accepted. No one has taken up the opportunity. And so I was quite embarrassed when he got back to me and said, well, he thought I said that we wanted training, but nobody's taking advantage of the opportunities. Right. So I think that our people must put these things, and I know people get tired of me saying it, but so many of us go and borrow large sums of money and put our families to tremendous debt and expense to get an education that, if you looked carefully, might be available somewhere for free. And, there's, in my view now, no magic about where you go to get your degree. A degree is really just a ticket into the park. What you do with it is ultimately what matters. And so whether you got your degree in Morocco or in Taiwan or in New York, it really doesn't matter at this stage. It really matters what you do with it, what you do with the education that you've got. And that, I think, is what is most important. And so the beauty about countries like Serbia and Morocco and Taiwan and others is that you also come back knowing a different culture and also hopefully knowing the language. And I can't emphasize how important that is in today's world to make you more competitive, to make you more appealing to an employer, for example, when you can say, listen, I speak fluent Mandarin. That's a pretty phenomenal thing. It means that if that businessman is doing business with China or doing business with Taiwan, then you become a tremendous asset to them because you can get on the phone, you can communicate in a language that everyone understands. So I think that there are advantages here, and too many of our people, I think, are wedded to the idea that you can only go to America. And as great as America is not the world. There is a number of other opportunities available globally. And so my job as foreign minister has really been to go out and to find these opportunities. And I'm quite proud that we've really been able to expand that footprint all across the world. And it is now for our people to allow themselves and put themselves in a position to take advantage of the opportunities that have been made available.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things you mentioned is just the attractiveness that you then possess, having graduated from some of these places. And that's one of the things I've been telling some friends of mine. You don't have you being one of the persons who go off and study in some of these let's say, less popular destinations, right? You don't understand you are now a unique asset, you know. You know, possess a unique set of skills, understanding of a culture that
Absolutely.
that you could use to position yourself for greatness if you really play your cards right.
Indeed.
And it's not to say it's a subpar level of education that you're receiving.
Not at all. You take Morocco, and I talk about Morocco because it's a country I'm very fond of. But if you take Morocco, for example, when you're in Morocco, you're at the crossroads of sort of Africa and Europe. You're at the crossroads of the Arab world and the Christian world. So in Morocco, the average Moroccan would probably speak Arabic and French, and many of them also speak English. So imagine being immersed in that culture, where you can pick up these important languages and at the same time get an education for free. And I keep emphasizing for free because I know so many young people who come back from university in the United States, in Canada, in the United Kingdom, and they come back burdened with student debt.
Mm-hmm.
It takes them sometimes 10 years, 15 years before they can get out from under that burden
Yep.
and then start to think about getting a house or getting a piece of land. And so imagine if both of you graduated Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College the same year. One gets a scholarship to go for free, the other one goes to the bank and borrows money. Both of you graduate at the same time and come back. Both of you are given a mid-management position, same government. Both of you are earning $5,500 a month. Which of you is better off?
Right.
Because one of you has to meet a student loan commitment every single month, and the other one doesn't.
That's a
So the
mortgage
other
deal.
one,
That's a mortgage
you know,
payment deal.
well, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, I encourage people to look at this as an opportunity for them. But too many of our people come back with a refrain, oh, that too far. Oh, my child, no, nobody there. And I find what we end up with is a kind of follow fashion where because some kids are going to UVI or some kids are going to UE or whatever. And of course, those are all great institutions. Midwestern in Texas, that, oh, my friend gone this, I go in there too.
Yeah.
And very little attention is being paid to the cost to you and your family of doing that. So I make that appeal because it makes me feel a little, how should I say, that my commitment to this isn't quite resonating because I get the scholarships and then the governments complain that there's no uptick. So I'm encouraging our people again, speak to HR in Nevis, speak to HR or education in St. Kitts, find out where these scholarships are, contact us at Foreign Affairs. We will help you with all that you need to go through. But absolutely, I want to see more of our young people seize these opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. I think part of it may be a misunderstanding of a cultural misunderstanding, meaning sometimes we, like you said, it's not even just to say like if sometimes they don't, you might have a misunderstanding about what the culture is. Some of the places that I go to, it's when you get the recognize just how advanced the societies are there. And I think sometimes we, based on what we see in the media and so forth, we don't really get a true understanding.
No, we don't do our own research.
Of just how amazing some of these
Right.
places are. And I think
And
that,
I
that
think
was
that
part of
point
it, yeah.
about doing your own research in today's age,
Mm-hmm.
with all the search engines that are available to us, there's absolutely no excuse for us not doing our own research. So if you hear about a country and you say, oh, that sounds far or whatever, there's a little thing called Google, very helpful. You go on there and you start to learn and do your own research. And so make your own decisions. I was in Italy, in Rome recently, and again, a young man is from St. Kitts, is there studying tourism. And I was able to spend some time with him and very impressed because he said to me he wanted to do this. He looked around, he searched the net, and he applied for a scholarship and he got it in Italy. And
Oh,
so there
wow,
he
nice.
is. Now that's a young man who's going to come back probably speaking Italian, learning how to do the best pasta in St. Kitts. I mean, it's
Boom
going to be
bang.
an interesting experience for him. So I think that these are some of the things that I really believe we just need to seize these opportunities. And if there are any youngsters out there listening to me, please grab these opportunities. They're very, very important for your development and ultimately for the development of St. Kitts and Nevis.
For sure, definitely.
Indeed. Well, cannot disagree with that one at all. But let's jump onto something else now, because you started right out the gate with the election saga. So are you saying that we might, because I remember a clip recently where you hinted that it might be a early election.
Jed, you remember a clip the man said as he start?
So that is definitely. I'm just trying to
Well,
seek some clarification here.
Elections will come when they come, I can tell you that my team is ready. We have, as I like to say, our big blue bus, the big blue machine, the CCM machine is, we put it in the shop after each election. So it went in the shop after June of 2020. I've checked on it recently and it looks in good condition.
Oh, nice.
Just doing some finishing touches. It should be out of the shop soon. And once that starts, we know when we hit the road, when we touch down, the whole place shell down. That is the way we do it in Nevis. So that's what's going to happen. When we touch down, the opposition is weak already, so I'm sorry for them. So, we want to win all 5 seats in Nevis. We think that we have ultimately 5 candidates that have the mix of experience and still some youthfulness. In fact, I'm perhaps the oldest of the lot. No, I'm sorry. I think there's one older than me. But all of us are still, as I say, old enough to know and young enough to do. And so we still have that capacity, especially me, after I got the COVID vaccine, I've had renewed vim, vigor, and vitality. So I think that, I'm ready and the team is ready. And it's just a question now of when it would be most opportune to have this election. So if the members of the opposition that are listening, well, they've been launching candidates now for the past year. So I suppose they're ready, although, as I said, they'll have to relaunch those people because nobody knows who they are.
Okay, well, wow. So yes, I also looked at a clip where I saw you speaking about, I think you said, think it has to stay out of Nevis's politics. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm correcting you because you're wrong. We're one country and we're one country and we get involved. I think, there's an old saying in Nevis. If you're walking down the street in a crowd and somebody gets up on the parapet and screams out, "Thief!" If you're not the thief, don't answer, because it means they're not talking to you. And it's the old people say a lot of things that, as I get older, I recognize a wisdom in them. So we are well aware that certain forces are at work in relation to our local politics and needs. Well aware. And so my public statement was intended to say to those thieves in the crowd, we know who you are, we know what you're up to, and I would suggest you cease and desist.
Right.
Because when the time comes, and it will come, when we go out to campaign, we intend to win this election because we intend to appeal to our people, we intend to run on our record, which I think has been a stellar record, notwithstanding COVID. And that is what we intend to do. And if those are going to align themselves with the opposition in Nevis, then we're running against them as well. It's as simple as that. So I see that the opposition in Nevis has tried to say that we're telling people not to contribute to their campaign. And they're begging $5 and $50, whoever can give them that. And I'm saying, fine, I'm begging too. But that's not the point that I was seeking to get at. And I believe they know that that's not the point. They just need to understand that a lot of the closed doors, dark night meetings that, when I was a boy, they told me I have cat eyes. You know the beauty about cat eyes? You all know the beauty about cat eyes?
Well, I don't.
You can see in the dark.
You can see in the dark.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
So a lot of times when they're hiding and they think they're being clever, we're seeing and we know what is happening. And I think that was a statement for all of those who think they're overly clever. They don't understand the political landscape in Nevis. We have seen in the past that others have come and failed. I like Nevis politically to World War II, when Adolf Hitler thought that he could invade Russia and lost the battle as the winter in Russia descended. He didn't understand the
landscape.
So I'm saying to those who know who they are, if you don't understand the landscape, stay out of Nevis business and allow us in Nevis to deal with the politics in Nevis. And it's as simple as that.
See, Jed, the thing is, I don't know what you're talking about, saying it ain't for me.
Yeah, no,
But who you for?
I know it wasn't for me, though. I knew it wasn't for me, though.
Take heed, mine.
The better? Sounds like the better.
Yeah, I think that it is interesting, though, the political landscape, and not just in Nevis, but just the federally,
Mm-hmm.
because of course CCM is part of the Unity coalition, and there has been a lot of talk in relation to the viability of the coalition as we move forward. Persons speculating that it may have run its course. Persons speculating that there may be some issues amongst the members.
Yep.
But as election approaches, not only in Nevis but even here in St. Kitts, federally, sorry, like those are the questions that are being asked and the things that are being speculated upon. I can ask the question straightforward.
You should.
Unity gonna be a thing in the next election?
Unity is, I think, as strong as we want it to be. Unity came about because there were some of us, and I'm happy to have been there at this point in our history, who thought that we could usher in a better form of governance for St. Kitts and Nevis, who thought, despite the frailties of all of us as human beings and the frailties of all of us who have been in politics, and in fact, we were on different sides at different points, that we could come together. And the idea really behind it was that with a tripartite arrangement, there'd be sufficient checks and balances. So CCM would be there fighting and looking out for Nevis, PAM would be fighting and looking out for PAM supporters, PLP would be fighting and looking out for Labour supporters, PLP supporters, whatever the case may be. And so you had a sense that we could come together, and because of the matrix, because of how this was structured, that it would work. I think along the way, we have faltered in some, to some extent. We have had some successes. We have had some areas that we have not yet been able to implement. And one of the areas that I know is very important to me and my administration and my government and my people of Nevis is, of course, the idea of a fair share of the CBI receipts. That has continued to be a difficulty and something that we continue to engage with to try and get a resolution on that issue. But unity, I think, as an idea, is the best thing politically to have happened to our country in the last 30, 40 years. The question is whether or not the individuals, and I have had a saying that has guided me a lot during my life. I said, you can design the best train in the world, the finest and most technologically advanced train in the world. But ultimately, if the individual operating that train does not operate the train properly, the train is going to derail. I use that analogy to say that all of us who are sitting in government now as members of Unity have an obligation, have a duty to the country and to the ideals of Unity to operate the train, which is St. Kitts and Nevis, in such a way that we bring value and we bring benefit to the country. If instead we start down a road of self-aggrandizement, where who's the big boss and who's the top dog and who's the big dog and who's all these foolish, names that we give ourselves, then we lose sight of what it is we have been put there to do. And I pray every night, and as I go through my days, I pray that I never lose sight of the awesome responsibility that I have and the awesome trust that people have put in me to seek to make their lives better, not mine, because they didn't put me here to serve myself. They put me here to serve them. And I think that if we are reminded of that each day, those of us in this unity government and those who are in government anywhere, we should be also always reminded of our purpose. Why are we in public service? Why are we in government? Why are we in politics? And that should keep us grounded. We tend to lose sight of that because everybody gets involved in the hype. And so, for example, one of my biggest concerns now about unity, since you asked me to be frank, I'm being frank, is that a lot of the people around some of the political parties seem to have taken it upon themselves that it is their right. And in fact, some may say that they have taken it to the point where one wonders if it's their job to attack other members of unity. So I see some people, for example, who are close to some politicians taking to social media every day to attack me. I don't even know them. And frankly, I have lived a life of ignoring the noise and trying my best never to elevate the irrelevant to relevant. I believe it's very important that you never elevate irrelevance to relevance. So you leave it where it is. But I marvel because one thing I will say about the Concerned Citizens Movement and Mark Brantley as the leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement, that I will not condone, I will not suggest to any of my supporters, my key and core people, that they attack any member of the unity administration. I will not condone or support that. And any day that I see any of them think, they will have a conversation with me. It's not any effort to squash free speech or anything like that, but some of the vitriol that is coming from some so-called supporters of some element of Team Unity against other members is something that is very concerning to me. And I think the public sees that, and that feeds the idea that unity is in trouble. Because people say, well, how that boy there who's so close to so-and-so could be cussing. And, people see it. And so when people see it, they say, oh, well, it has to be that so-and-so is enabling, empowering, encouraging. And so you wonder sometimes if that's what they get money for. That's what they get paid to do.
Make you
But
wonder
I'm not engaged in that. The CCM is not engaged in that. And I'm urging the other members of Unity to rein in these rogue elements that they have and tell them, listen, go sit down and behave themselves, because I've said all the time, we have some, how should I put it? We have some fierce campaigners in the Concerned Citizens Movement.
Indeed.
And I have said that as a machine, as a cohort, as a team, I don't know that there's any better team on offer in the Federation when we decide that we're going into campaign mode. And that is why I have said, let us do what is necessary when it is necessary. And a lot of what I see passing now as public commentary and people going at each other, I wonder sometimes if there are elements out there. And that is where I think leadership is necessary. Sean Richards needs to step up and tell PAM people, listen, this is Team Unity and this is how we do it. Timothy Harris needs to step up and tell PLP people, listen, right? Hush eye mode, stop chat choppiness. This is where it is. This is the team, right? I don't need to step up and tell my people because my people understand that.
Right.
But the point that I'm making is I think that is what leads to this kind of sense that there's some disunity and we're not getting along, because a lot of times it's the people around who are making these discordant notes. And I think, frankly, they need to understand and to conduct themselves in a way that, again, refocuses our efforts on what is important for the country. But other than that, I'm over here in Queen City just observing, and I'll go into my election mode over here. But
I feel you.
I'm sure things are going to work out.
I feel you, but at the same time, I'm listening to what you said, and I'm not blind, so some of the things that you're speaking about, I would have seen, right? And it makes me wonder, and if it makes me wonder, I want to believe that it may make you wonder as well.
Indeed.
Why would you be a target? And I don't know if you have any theories on that. I know that there's some people that do in terms of, and I'll put this out there just to get your feedback on it. But there may be a belief that there is no political party in the Federation that can really be successful in an election or be successful in terms of being able to form a government without the support of perhaps CCM or maybe even more specifically you. And maybe that brings a sense of fear among some of the supporters. Do you believe that may be one of the reasons for the type of behavior from these rogue elements that you mentioned?
But the rogue elements, some of them that I see are people who are, sycophantic in their behavior. What I mean by that is they are scorning the base degrees by which they did ascend, absent people like myself who have given our all to put unity there. Where would they be?
Indeed.
So sometimes when I see them, I smile because I said, they are in a very real way attacking the very foundation that has propped them up. And if that foundation is removed tomorrow, what happens to them? They go back to obscurity. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel that again, I'd like to go back to old sayings in Nevis. And there's a very old saying that I think is so true, that nobody stones an empty mango tree. Growing up in Nevis, you know that summertime is mango season. And so as boys and girls, we were stoning the mango trees because they're full of mango.
Indeed.
This time of year, no mango there, so nobody throwing stone in a empty mango tree, unless your head no good. So the truth of it is that when you see people constantly coming at you, and I'm not just speaking about me, I'm speaking about life generally, it is because they see something in you. They're threatened by you. They see some quality in you that they don't themselves possess. There's something about you. And so I don't get concerned about people who spend a life trying to attack me. Because while they're wasting that energy, I'm seeking to use my energy to advance myself and advance the ideas and ideals that I hold dear. And I think that's a lesson that other people should take on board. A lot of people feel that because there is some barking dog that you must kick. No, if you kick at every barking dog, you'll never get up the hill.
Right.
So sometimes you see them barking and you just let them bark. And they bark until they're tired bark, they get hoarse, and then they stop because you have ignored them. You're too focused on your mission in life to take on all that negativity and all that some people are saying. But when people single you out and continually go after you, it is not because, as I like to tell people, they hate you. A lot of times it's because they see something in you that they themselves don't have. And that for some creates a difficulty. So I think as we go through life, these are important lessons that have helped me, guided me, and allow me to lead as stress-free a life as I can because I just learned to ignore the noise. I don't engage in it. I don't bother with it because a lot of them who are making noise can't even help themselves. And so you just ignore that and you focus on your mission and you focus on what it is you're trying to achieve in life. And I believe that all will be well. So I can't account for why some are fixating on me. I have heard, for example, oh, I want to be prime minister. I have never expressed that anywhere. But I've often said, if I wanted to be prime minister, so what? So
Indeed.
what? What is wrong with anybody in this country wanting to be prime minister?
I don't have that.
A
I don't have an
man,
answer for that.
a poor fella called Kennedy Simmons from Newtown wanted to be prime minister. And a poor fella from St. Paul's called Denzel Douglas wanted to be prime minister. And a poor fella from Taba called Timothy Harris wanted to be prime minister. So if there is a poor fella from Nevis who wants to be prime minister, what is wrong with that? And I think that when people say that, it is really a reflection of an underlying sentiment that has existed throughout the ages, where some feel that the people of Nevis ought not to aspire to certain things. And I'm saying that that is nonsense. So while I may not have that desire or ambition personally, I take umbrage at anybody who will suggest that somebody from Nevis cannot have that ambition. So my answer is always, why not? So a lot of people as well with this nonsense, oh, you want to be prime minister. So what? So what?
Hmm.
It is not so. But if even it were so,
What's
so
the
what?
problem? Yeah. What's the problem?
And I
I
think that
agree.
that is an important thing as we talk about refashioning St. Kitts and Nevis and getting our people to see ourselves as one country. That every little boy and girl, and I've said this before, every little boy and girl from Hanley's Road, from Cotton Ground, from Jessup's, from Barnesgut, must, must know and be born into a country where he or she knows that he or she has the same opportunities as a little boy born in Tabernacle or St. Paul's or Newtown. That there is no difference in terms of the altitude that they can obtain in their country because they're all citizens who are entitled to the full fruits of their citizenship. That is a lesson I think that our people need to work on, to learn, to accept that when something becomes available, Governor General, Prime Minister, CEO, whatever it may be, ambassador, that the country looks for the best talent that's available to the country, not where that talent is born, but the best talent that's available. And I end that by saying that for me, it was a remarkable thing that I became foreign minister of this country in 2015. And prior to 2015, there had never been a single ambassador for St. Kitts and Nevis from the island of Nevis. Never.
Wow.
And you ask yourself, why? Our education system is the same. Our people go to the same universities and do well. So how come in 2015, some 30 plus years after independence, that we had never seen one Nevisian who we thought was qualified and had something to offer in our diplomatic circle? Now we have Nevisians who are operating and doing an exceptional job, because I took the approach that I wanted the best, not the best Kittitians, but the best citizens that were available to serve. And I think if we adopt that approach, a lot of the irrelevant noise dies away, because it is based on a false sense of what national development should look like. And I think that we can only move forward as a country if we harness the tremendous reservoir of goodwill, talent, skills, and brain power that we have available to us at home, in the homeland, and the homeland is St. Kitts and Nevis, and in the diaspora. And that, I hope, is a lesson that my short sojourn in politics would have taught. And that is something that, so long as I have breath, I will continue to say, whether I'm in politics or out, that the country needs the best and brightest available to the country. And every little boy and girl must be able to aspire to be what he or she wants to be, and not be told that something is unattainable.
Wow.
Well, definitely, definitely, I could agree with that, and hopefully that does become the norm in thinking, and yeah, people don't really question ability based on where you're from, and people are afforded the opportunities to serve in whichever way they can, considering that they're truly qualified and good at what they do.
I think when you start your campaigning in full force, I feel like that section of this interview, you just need to play it over the loudspeakers.
Sounds like I have a voter, you know.
I can't help you. Listen, I can't help you, but I'm just saying.
Mr. Brantley,
I won't be like the former NRP leader who said, "Come over, my brothers from St. Kitts. Come over, my sisters, both in Nevis." I won't do that. So I know you can't help me, but please.
Well, you'll be surprised, because she was working on it. She was working on it at some point, but Pana kind of dropped the ball. So.
But one thing with you always know people business. I don't understand.
No, she gladly puts it out. So all I do is repeat it.
You're worse than CNN.
I'm glad I'm not the only person that recognizes this ability that he has.
I recognize indeed. But I really appreciate the support. I really appreciate the opportunity. I know we've come to the end of the appointed time, but I please get in touch with me whenever I can. I like to engage with young people. We who are in the positions now are really already on our way out. Age and time is what it is. I think you are the people who must step up to take the mantle and to fashion our country in the image that you would want. And I think that that's very important, that we engage and we share ideas and we, share our views, and we shape St. Kitts and Nevis in a way that really benefits all of us. And for me, that is what is most important. And that is why I took the decision to enter politics looks like 15, 16 years ago now. So I'm here for a little while yet, and I will see how the next election goes, and then I'll determine my own future and what I decide to do. But certainly I feel that, going back to the question of unity, that a lot of the discordant notes that are being sounded by people around the various factions, they need to be asked to go, and to use my favorite expression from Nevis, because we don't say sit down, we say sit down. So they must go and sit down. That's important.
Well, I mean, we appreciate you taking the time out to come and just chat with us a bit this morning. Always a pleasure. We always look forward to having you, come and talk to us.
And I must say, I appreciate how easy it is to get you to join us. I guess sometimes we don't take the time to appreciate the people who actually support and try to be of some sort of help, or even try to push our culture forward. So we must appreciate you for always being up for an interview. even if I message you a day before.
But I always try. I do have a question though. I was asked this morning, what is your slogan for this show? Something about you and cup. I'm not.
You can't be everybody's cup of tea because you is not a mug.
You is not a mug.
Right.
Yes.
You can't be everybody's cup of tea.
Okay. I was because I'm trying to be everybody's cup of tea, so I'm trying to figure it out, how it works.
So we found the
But
mug.
We may have found a mug.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thanks to all of your viewers and listeners. And thank you for the excellent work that you're doing. I think programs like these, where young people have an opportunity to commandeer the airwaves and share their views and opinions and how we can do what we do better in St. Kitts and Nevis. I think this is fantastic. And so I commend you. I commend all of you involved with this program. And certainly, if there's room for me in the future, let me know. Thank you.
For sure.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yes.